Hey guys, tonight we saddle up for something dusty, dangerous, and weirdly heartfelt. You feel the grit in your teeth before you've even left the depot. The morning air is dry and sharp, and the sun hasn't quite cleared the ridge of hills to the east, but you're already sweating under your hat. A canvas mailbag, stamped with a crooked eagle and reeking of pipe smoke, hangs heavy from your shoulder. It's stuffed with letters from desperate miners, lonesome wives, crooked gamblers, and people who've never even seen a telegraph wire. And today, those words ride with you. Your horse, Maggie, a dapple gray with more attitude than a saloon madam, snorts like she already knows something's going to go wrong. Maybe she's right. Maybe this is the route where the axle breaks, the coyote follows, or a rattlesnake curls right under your bedroll. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far we all reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not famous. You're not a lawman. But when people see you ride into town with that bulging bag slung tight across your chest, they nod. You bring the news. You bring hope, heartbreak, overdue taxes, and once, a letter addressed simply to Mama, somewhere west. No return address. Just a shaky hand and faith that you'd find her. The boss at the depot doesn't smile. He never does. He spits into a coffee tin, wipes his mouth with the back of a sunburned hand, and gestures at the route pinned to the map, 4 stations, 1 river crossing, 2 ridges, maybe 3 days if you're lucky. He hands you a sidearm, a .36 Navy Colt that hasn't been cleaned in a year, and a crumpled note. Avoid Crocker's Gulch. Bandits. Recent ambush. 1 dead rider. No pressure. As you mount up, your mailbag feels like a sacred burden. These aren't just letters, they're confessions, warnings, love songs, and sometimes, cash stitched into the lining. You've heard stories of outlaws slashing bags open just to get to the good stuff, only to find dusty Bible pages and recipes for pickled eggs. Still, that one time you delivered a marriage proposal scrawled in charcoal on birch bark? That one stuck with you. The trail out of town is quiet, but you don't trust it. You pass the blacksmith's, the one with 3 missing fingers and a horseshoe tattooed on his throat. He waves with a hand wrapped in grease and old cloth. Even he looks concerned. You nod back, pretending not to notice. 1 mile out, the wind shifts, and with it, the smell of old campfires and something metallic, like gun oil or blood. Or both. 2 vultures drift overhead, making lazy circles. You tug your neckerchief up higher and lean forward in the saddle, urging Maggie into a steady lope. The first ridge comes fast, and you feel it in your thighs. Saddle sores aren't just a joke, they're a rite of passage. You shift your weight, trying to keep circulation in your legs. The mailbag bounces with every hoofbeat. As you ride, you think about the people behind those envelopes. Some are scrawled in thick, blocky letters, sent by hands used to pickaxes, not pens. Others are written in flourishes and curls, dripping with perfume or desperation. Historians still argue whether some postman secretly read letters just to stave off the loneliness of the trail. You try not to peek. But sometimes, curiosity wins. Case in point, the letter tied with blue thread and no address. Just says deliver to the man with the glass eye. That's it. That's the whole thing. And weirdly, you have seen that guy, in a saloon outside of Fort Lane, sitting in the corner sipping brandy and refusing to blink. Guess you'll be deterring. The sun climbs higher, burning through your shirt like coals. Your canteen's already halfway gone, and the next station is still hours out. You try the old trick, wedge a pebble in your cheek and let the slow suck of it make your mouth think it's got water. Not perfect, but it works. Desert mind games. Ahead, a lone mesquite tree stands crooked against the sky. You remember this spot. Last month, a fellow rider said he saw a cougar slinking past it at dawn. You check your pistol. Still loaded. Mostly. A small dust cloud appears ahead. Rider? Wagon? Hard to tell. You stop Maggie with a whisper and crouch low. If it's a traveler, fine. If it's a bandit, well, that's why you keep the mailbag across your chest like armor. You unsling your rifle. One bullet in the chamber, and that's about it. Turns out, it's just a preacher in a mule cart. He waves, tips his hat, and asks if you've seen any souls in need of saving. You reply, only mine. He laughs, tosses you a small can of peaches, and rides off whistling. You eat the peaches with your knife, savoring the syrup like it's gold. Small mercies. Night falls fast in the west. Shadows stretch long, and coyotes start tuning up in the distance. You reach the first station, a tiny hut with smoke curling from the chimney and a dog sleeping on the porch. The keeper, a wiry woman named Bess, greets you with a mug of coffee and a nod. She takes 3 letters from your bag and hands you a parcel wrapped in waxed cloth. Don't jostle it, she warns. It's teeth. You decide not to ask. You sleep for 4 hours on a straw mattress with your boots on and your gun under your hat. At dawn, you're off again, the mailbag a little lighter, your soul just slightly heavier. Welcome to the job. The saddle's worn leather creaks beneath you like an old man's knees, and it's not just the trail making you ache, it's the realization that this saddle might as well be your home now. There's no room for sentiment out here. You wake up, you mount up, and you ride. Again. And again. And again. You can't remember the last time you saw Ray all bed. Maybe that one in Tannersville, with the quilt that smelled like lavender and pipe smoke. Or maybe that was just a fever dream from when you ate that undercooked jackrabbit stew and hallucinated an entire wedding ceremony between 2 cacti. Either way, reality now is dust, leather, and the steady clop of Maggie's hooves. The route today snakes up through low, rolling hills toward the edges of what they call Apache country. The map's no help. Half the creeks marked on it have dried up, and someone drew a skull and crossbones over a stretch labeled Trader's Pass. Probably a joke. Hopefully. You ride through sagebrush that scratches at your chaps and clouds of grasshoppers that rise like popcorn popping under your horse's hooves. In the silence, It's alive. You swear it hums when the wind dips. That kind of silence can make a man religious or paranoid. The mailbag digs into your back with every sway of the horse. You've got 12 letters today and 2 newspapers wrapped in oilcloth. One letter is sealed in red wax with a fancy R on the back. Feels important. Or ominous. You think about who might be waiting for it, some cattle baron with a cigar habit, or maybe a woman standing by a window, worrying that the person who wrote it is already dead. Historians still argue whether mail carriers in the West were more vital than the sheriffs. One kept the peace. The other kept people connected. You know which one you'd rather have show up. By midday, your canteen's almost dry again, so you make a stop at an old watering hole. Literally, a wooden barrel buried in the ground with a plank lid nailed shut. You pry it open and scoop water with your bandana. It tastes like tin and despair, but it's wet, and that's enough. You tie Maggie loosely to a tree stump and sit in the shade with your boots off. Your socks are a crime against humanity. They crunch. You fan your toes and stretch out, and just when you start to drift off, you feel something cold and wet nudge your elbow. You open one eye. It's a goat. Just standing there. Staring at you. One ear's missing. Didn't expect company, you mutter. The goat blinks. You toss it half a hardtack biscuit. It chews like it owes you money. Somewhere between that moment and the next, you hear a distant gunshot. Just one. Sharp, clean, and way too close for comfort. Maggie snorts. The goat? Unbothered. You shove your boots back on, sling the mailbag tight, and move fast. The hills are deceptive, sound travels weird out here. You crest the next ridge and spot something in the distance, a thin plume of smoke. Could be a campfire. Could be trouble. You angle away, taking the longer route south. It adds 2 hours, but your gut says it's worth it. That gut? It saved your life more than once. As you ride, you think about all the letters you've carried over the last few months. Some you remember clear as day, a soldier's note to his sister, apologizing for stealing her favorite ribbon before he left for war. A crumpled envelope sent from a one-eyed preacher to a man he believed might be the devil. A postcard written in French, with a drawing of a strange beetle and the words, "If this finds you, run." You never asked questions. But you never forgot, either. The road turns rough, and Maggie stumbles on a patch of loose shale. You slide off, check her hoof, and whisper some nonsense to calm her, something about oats and pastures and a better life in Kansas. She snorts like she knows you're lying. You trudge alongside her for a while, giving her a break. The sun is relentless now, a white coin pressed into the blue. Your shadow's long, and your brain starts to hum with heat. You try to hum a song to distract yourself, something you heard in a dance hall months ago. You get 3 lines in before forgetting the words and switching to whistling. It's during that lull, when your mind's drifting like tumbleweed, that you catch something strange in the trail ahead, a hat. Just sitting there in the dirt. You stop. Maggie stops. You both stare. You approach it slowly. The hat's dusty, wide-brimmed, sun-faded. You nudge it with your boot. Underneath? A single envelope, heavy with something inside. No footprints. No horse tracks. No sign of a person anywhere. You pick it up. The envelope sealed and addressed to Samuel R. Fields, wherever he may be. The handwriting is jagged, done in a rush. On the back, someone's drawn an hourglass. Well, Samuel R. Fields, looks like you're about to be part of your mailbag's growing mystery collection. You ride on. By nightfall, you reach a post halfway station, a kind of halfway hut built into the side of a rocky outcrop. No sign of life at first, but there's smoke rising from the chimney and a lantern hung on a hook, swaying in the breeze. Inside, an old man named Curtis, bald as a buzzard and with a permanent sunburn, greets you with a nod and a tin plate of beans. You look half dead, he says. "Wanna make it all the way?" "Planning to," you reply, mouth full of beans and grit. He offers you a cot, a jar of pickled eggs, and a warning. "Saw lights moving on the ridge last night. Could be coyotes. Could be worse." You sleep with one eye open and the mailbag wrapped around your chest like a lifeline. Your dreams are hot, twitchy, and full of galloping. This isn't just a ride anymore. It's becoming your whole identity. The saddle isn't just where you sit. It's who you are now. You wake up to a coyote scream that sounds exactly like a human woman being murdered. Always fun. Your eyes snap open, and for a second, you forget where you are, until you feel the mailbag under your arm and the smell of old beans lingering in your beard. Curtis is already up, poking a fire with a bent poker, humming some that doesn't sound particularly hopeful. He doesn't say good morning. Just gestures toward a mug of what might be coffee or possibly axle grease in liquid form. You drink it anyway. By the time the sun breaks over the ridge, you're back on Maggie, headed deeper into the high desert. This stretch is what old-timers call nothing for 50 miles. No towns, no trees, just low scrub, rattlesnakes, and the creeping suspicion that you've passed that same rock 3 times. Here's the thing they never tell you in male school: if there even was one, the desert doesn't just try to kill you with heat. It tries to get in your head. The emptiness starts to echo. Every whisper of wind sounds like a voice. Every lizard scuttling across the rocks could be a bandit sneaking up behind you, or just another hallucination cooked up by your dehydration-addled brain. You start talking to yourself to stay sane. "Okay, Maggie," you say, 2 more ridges, then we take a break. Maybe even share some jerky. Deal?" She flicks an ear. You chew a strip of that same jerky, it's older than some of the towns you've passed, and squint into the sun. Out here, mirages are real, and not just the watery ones. You once saw a full marching band on a hilltop, tubas, flags, the works. Of course, when you rode closer, it turned into a dead tree and a pile of bleached buffalo bones. Historians still argue whether the frontier mail routes through desert country were acts of bravery or just slow-motion suicide. From your saddle, they look like both. To break up the monotony, you start playing the old canteen trick again, tapping the cap in rhythm against your thigh. It's not just a nervous habit. You once met a Kiowa scout who swore the sound kept away the crawling things. You never asked for clarification, and now you're afraid to. You spot the carcass of a wagon off to the left, half buried in sand, sun-baked and skeletonized. No bodies, just a single boot still upright in the driver's seat and a rusted cooking pot hanging from the side. The mailbag stirs against your back like it knows something. You consider stopping to investigate, then think better of it. Some mysteries in the desert are meant to stay mysteries. Your throat is raw. Your lips feel like cracked leather. You finally spot a small line of cottonwoods in the distance. Trees mean water, maybe shade. As you ride closer, something flickers in the corner of your eye. Movement. Fast and low. You freeze. Maggie does, too. From the brush, a flash of scales and the telltale rattle. ZRP. Great. Rattlesnake. Coiled just a few feet away, head up, tongue flicking like it's thinking real hard about biting the next sweaty idiot on a horse. You hold your breath. Slowly dismount. One wrong move and it's venom time. You'd heard stories about riders who survived a bite by cutting open the wound and sucking out the poison. You're not that brave, or that flexible. Instead, you do what your mentor, Gus, taught you. You throw your hat at it. The snake strikes the hat midair, then slithers away, offended. You pick up the hat. Now it has a hole in it. You decide it gives you character. To make yourself feel better, you remind yourself of a weird fact Gus once shared. Back in Egypt, ancient couriers used crocodile dung as sunscreen. You don't know if that's true, and you don't care. The point is, at least you don't have that job. By the time you reach the cottonwoods, the stream's barely more than a trickle, but it's enough. You let Maggie drink first, then refill your canteen and splash your face until it feels less like jerky and more like human skin again. You sit on a rock and pull out a few of the letters, just to remind yourself what you're hauling. One's written on blue paper, neat cursive, folded tight. Another is smeared with something reddish-brown. Ink, you hope. The one that gets your attention is scrawled on a torn piece of rawhide. All it says is, "She knows. Stop running." You slide it back into the bag. The air changes. You look up to see clouds gathering, thin ones, high up, but enough to take the edge off the sun. You consider it a gift from the mail gods. You ride on, and the landscape begins to shift. The desert slowly gives way to a high plain, where golden grasses sway in long waves. But that's when you hit your next problem, prairie dogs. Now, you wouldn't think something so small could be such a menace. But their tunnels are everywhere, like booby traps for horses. And sure enough, Maggie's front leg punches through one, and she rears back, panicked. You calm her down, check for injuries, just a scrape, thank heaven, but you're off and walking again. You start counting prairie dog holes just to stay occupied. You get to 57 before one pokes its head up and chirps at you like it's offended you exist. Go start your own postal service, you mutter. I'm busy. As the sun starts to dip again, turning the whole prairie amber and gold, you spot a tall wooden pole rising from the ground up ahead. Not a telegraph line, those haven't reached this stretch yet, but a marker. Someone carved a crude arrow into it, pointing north, and nailed a small tin cup to the top. Below it, scratched into the wood, "Water 2 miles. If you ain't armed, turn back." You decide to turn back, on that path, anyway. 2 miles of maybe water isn't worth 2 bullets in the gut. As you circle around and find a safer route, you catch sight of something in the sky, a hawk, riding a thermal. Graceful, sure, but you remember what Bess at the last station told you. "If a hawk dives west," she said, "storm's coming. If it dives east, get off the trail." You never figured out whether she meant it literally or metaphorically, and now you're watching that hawk slowly bank east. Naturally. You make camp just before dusk behind a rock outcrop, where you can watch the prairie open wide in all directions. You build a small fire, warm a can of beans, and write yourself a mental note: buy more socks. Or burn these. As the stars start to fill the sky, sharper, colder, and closer than they ever appear back east, you lie down with the mailbag for a pillow and your hat tilted just so over your eyes. You close them, but your ears stay awake. Coyotes. Wind. The occasional rustle of grass too rhythmic to be random. The desert doesn't sleep. And now, neither do you. By the time first light stretches across the horizon in bruised purples and golds, you're already packing up camp. The fire's been reduced to warm stones, your coffee tastes like burnt hope, and the prairie is humming, like something's about to happen. You saddle Maggie, double-check the mailbag, and ride with a sense of unease that clings like a damp shirt. It's not just the hawk from yesterday or the weird message carved into that pole. It's the silence. The prairie's too quiet. No bird calls. No wind. Just you, your horse, and whatever it is that's been watching you since sundown. The path winds through a series of shallow gullies, each one like a bowl carved out of the earth. Perfect ambush spots. You try not to think about it, but then you see a glint. Up ahead, high on a ridge, something catches the light. You squint. Just a second too long. Crack. The bullet misses you by about 2 feet, but you hear it sing past your ear like a mosquito with a death wish. You duck, spur Maggie into motion, and she takes off like a shot, hoofs pounding into the earth, dust clouds swirling behind you like a kicked hornet's nest. You don't look back. You already know what's back there. Outlaws. There were stories, of course. Gangs who stalked mail riders not for gold, but for information. One note to the wrong person could change the whole balance of a land dispute, or railroad deal, or a water claim. Some people would kill just to stop a letter from arriving. You used to think those stories were exaggerations. Until now. You veer into a narrow canyon. The walls close in fast, bad idea, but the only cover you've got. You dismount mid-run, slap Maggie's flank to send her forward, and scramble up a side slope littered with loose shale. You duck behind a boulder, breathing like you swallowed a hornet. Footsteps. Voices. 2, maybe 3 of them. One's limping. You listen. He went this way, sawdust. He can't be far. He won't be far when he's dead. Lovely. You unholster your revolver, not that it'll help much if they're determined. It's rusty and holds 5 rounds, one of which is a dud you keep forgetting to replace. You've only ever fired it once, at a snake that turned out to be a twisted stick. The outlaws get closer. You press your back to the boulder and count your heartbeat. 1, 2, 3. And then, a miracle. A distant whistle. Sharp, rhythmic. Railroad? No. Too far from the lines. The outlaws pause. One of them mutters, "That's Curtis again, spooking the trails." Idiot. They retreat, boots crunching fast over the gravel. You don't move until the silence settles like ash. Later, when you finally find Maggie waiting just outside the canyon, good girl, you stroke her neck and whisper, "Next time I run, I'm tying you to me." That night, you camp under a twisted juniper tree, heart still thumping from the chase. You check the mailbag, everything's there. Even the rawhide note to Samuel or Fields. You think about the outlaws, the glen on the ridge. And you wonder, were they after something specific? Or just bandits with bad aim? Historians still argue whether outlaw gangs like the Red Ditch Boys ever targeted mail carriers deliberately, or if they just hit whoever looked like they had something worth stealing. You don't care either way. You just care that you're still breathing. In the morning, you ride out through territory where landmarks are measured not by maps, but by stories. There's Snakehead Rock, which looks exactly like what it sounds like, and possibly is, if you ask the Apache scouts. There's the Coffin Trees, a stand of black pines where the wind makes a sound like sobbing. And then there's Devil's Elbow, a canyon so narrow and twisted that it's said only ghosts can ride straight through it. Naturally, that's your path. The elbow's steep, rocky, and full of echoing drips. You ride slow, listening to the sound of your horse's hooves bounce off the walls like a drumbeat. It smells like wet stone and something else, something sweet and metallic. You'd rather not guess what. About halfway through, you come across an old stagecoach axle jammed between 2 rocks. No coach. No bones. Just the axle, rusted, wedged like a warning. You make a mental note, if anything here starts whispering your name, you're turning around. It's in places like this where the weird stories bubble up. Like the one about the mail carrier named Boone who vanished inside Devil's Elbow, only to reappear 3 days later with his mailbag full of dead birds and a map drawn in ash. He never spoke again. Just whistled, in Morse code. You shake off the chill crawling up your neck and press on. When you finally emerge from the canyon, the sky opens up like a sigh, and the sun is a welcome punch to the face. You ride into open land again, and ahead, a cabin. Isolated, rough-hewn, but standing. You approach cautiously. Smoke curls from the chimney. A woman in a faded blue dress stands in the doorway, rifle in hand, but pointed down. "Post?" she asks. You nod, wordless. She lowers the rifle and gestures to a stool on the porch. "Coffee?" You don't decline. Inside, her walls are lined with books, actual books. A stack of Harper's Weekly sits beside a whittled chess set. She pours strong, bitter coffee and watches as you dig out a folded letter addressed in looping cursive. Her hands shake when she takes it. "It's from my boy," she says softly. "First in 2 years." You tip your hat, ready to leave, but she stops you. "You should know," she adds. "There's been folks asking about a rider, one with a red scarf and a scar under his eye." You touch your own cheek, heart jumping. "That's you." Or close enough. "Who?" you ask. She just shrugs. "Didn't give names. Just said you'd be coming." You thank her, mount up, and ride hard. As you cut across the next stretch of open plain, your mind churns. Someone's tracking you. Possibly more than one someone. And the notes in your bag might be more dangerous than any gold shipment ever could be. Still, the mail moves. Because it must. And somewhere ahead, there's a town with a crooked steeple and a dog that barks at shadows and a widow waiting for a letter from a son she hasn't heard from in 4 winters. And it's your job to get it there. So you ride on. With dust in your throat, a pistol at your hip, and secrets in your saddlebag. The next 2 days pass under an iron sky that never quite decides whether to rain or not. Instead, it just spits cold, spiteful drizzles that soak your coat without the courtesy of a real storm. Every time you think it's done, the wind shifts and slaps another wet gust right across your face like nature's own backhand. Maggie's not pleased either. Her ears flatten every few minutes, and she keeps tossing her head as if to say, "I didn't sign up for this postal nonsense." You'd argue back, but your lips are too chapped to form coherent sarcasm. You press on through hills that roll like giant sleeping buffalo under blankets of mist. The path here is narrow, mostly game trails and old wagon ruts. You pass the skeleton of a stagecoach, half swallowed by tall grass, its wheels rotted to spokes and its driver's bench decorated with a crow that watches you with unblinking, almost legalistic judgment. In your pack, the letters shift when you hit a bump. You pat them like nervous passengers. You come to a fork in the trail. One way leads through Sinker's Gulch, the other over Widow's Bluff. Both names sound like places that inspire tragic fiddle ballads. You squint up at the bluff, steep, jagged, lined with switchbacks that look like they were drawn by a drunk cartographer. But Sinker's Gulch? Well, they say no horse ever made it through there without losing at least one shoe and one nerve. You choose the bluff. Halfway up, the wind picks up, and so do the rocks. Loose shale skitters beneath Maggie's hooves. One wrong step and you'll both be riding the fast lane back down to the prairie, via Gravity Express. As you dismount and lead her carefully, step by agonizing step, you mutter, "This better not be the day I become a cautionary tale." By the time you reach the top, your boots are scraped raw, your knuckles are bleeding from grabbing jagged stones, and Maggie's breathing like a steam engine. But you made it. The view, though? Worth it. The land opens out like a painting, golden valleys, distant snowcaps, a sliver of river winding like silver ribbon through it all. In the distance, a tiny, you think it might be your next stop. A place called Dry Tooth, population probably 12 and 1 goat. You take a moment. Breathe. Then head down. As you reach the outskirts of Dry Tooth, your presence causes a minor sensation. Not because you're famous, because you're new. Out here, strangers are as rare as rain, and twice as suspicious. A dog starts barking like you insulted its mother. Two kids peer out from behind a barrel, whispering. One runs off to fetch someone named Sheriff Dooley, which sounds more like a bar trick than a lawman. You hitch Maggie outside the general store / post office / barber / town gossip hub. Inside, it smells like tobacco, rust, and mothballs. The storekeep, a man whose mustache arrives a full 2 seconds before the rest of him, leans over the counter and says, "Mail run, huh? You're braver than you look." You hand over a small bundle of letters. One of them's addressed to him. He grunts when he sees the return address. "From my sister," he says, which means either someone died or she wants money. As he breaks the seal, you notice a bulletin board behind him. Hand-scrawled notes, reward flyers, a menu offering hot beans and cold beans. But one piece of paper makes your stomach flip. It's a wanted poster. And the sketch? It looks very much like you. Or maybe someone you'd mistaken for yourself in a dusty mirror. The name is different, says Elias Crow, but the red scarf, the scar under the eye, the same set to the jaw. It's you. You ask the storekeep casually, "That a new one?" "Been up a week," he replies, not looking up. "Showed up with a stranger from Omaha. Said he's Pinkerton. Smelled like gin and secrets." You nod, thank him, and exit with your heart doing the cha-cha. Back outside, Sheriff Dooley finally arrives. He's wide, slow-moving, and dressed like he robbed the clearance bin at a Confederate surplus depot. His badge is held on with what looks like bubble gum. He eyes you. Then your horse. Then your mailbag. "You with the Federal Service?" "Sort of," you say. "Sort of don't cut it." You pull out your weather-stained badge of commission. It's got the signature of a territorial postmaster no one remembers, but it still carries weight. Dooley grunts. "Just don't stir nothing. We got enough trouble without strangers looking like wanted men." You nod, tip your hat, and ride on. As Dry Tooth vanishes behind you, replaced by a waving prairie and a distant clap of thunder, your mind starts to chew on the pieces. Who put up the poster? Why Elias Crow? Was it a mistake? A setup? And why did they pick your face? Historians still argue whether certain writers were ever impersonated or hunted for reasons even they didn't understand. In some cases, men were chased across territories not for anything they'd done, but for what people thought they might do. The clouds start to gather above. Thunder rolls again, closer this time. The sky splits open like a zipper and dumps the whole basin of heaven on your head. Rain. Actual, biblical, frog-chucking, soul-drenching rain. You pull your coat tighter and ride for a stand of cottonwoods in the distance. The mailbag is wrapped in oiled leather, thank God, but your boots fill with water in about 8 seconds. You reach the trees and hunker down beneath the thickest one, listening to the storm crash around you. Somewhere out there, someone's looking for you. And they think your name is Elias. You pull a letter from the bag. One of the older ones, addressed to Miss Adelaide Crow, Fort Spence. The last name jolts you. Crow, same as the wanted poster. You read the first line of the letter, and your blood goes cold. Adelaide, I'm sorry. I never meant to drag you into this. You shove it back in the bag, heart racing. You were never supposed to read these, but now you're not sure you have a choice. A bolt of lightning splits the sky. For just a second, the prairie is day again, and you see a lone figure standing far off on a ridge. Watching. Then gone. You're soaked, half frozen, and suddenly caught in a mystery that's riding just a few miles behind you. But the mail moves. Because it must. Even if it's carrying secrets that could get you killed. By the time the storm clears, the ground is soup. Every hoofstep squelches, and Maggie's legs are caked in mud up to the knees. Your hat drips down your back, and your coat clings to you like wet newspaper. But the prairie? The prairie looks new. Washed clean. Like it doesn't remember you, or the shadow you saw on that ridge. You ride on, your brain still chewing on the name, Elias Crow. The letter you shouldn't have read burns in your memory. Who was Adelaide? Who wrote it? And why does someone out there think you're Elias? You keep the letter separate now, tucked inside your coat like a piece of stolen truth. The rest of the mail's untouched. At least, you hope it is. You haven't checked for stowaways or clever forgeries yet. Maybe you should. Maybe you shouldn't. The road climbs into drier hills. Sunlight finally breaks through the thinning clouds, spreading golden syrup over the land. You pass rock formations that look like broken statues, twisted into strange poses by centuries of wind. One, shaped like a crouching man, makes you shiver as you ride past. You could swear its head turned just slightly. To shake off the heebie-jeebies, you start singing. Badly. Oh, my saddle is damp and my socks are worse. Delivering mail feels a whole lot like a curse. Maggie whinnies like she wants you to stop. Fair. Up ahead, smoke rises in the distance, not the angry kind, but a lazy ribbon spiraling into the sky. You steer toward it, hoping it's the next relay stop, or at least someone with a fire and a non-soggy place to sit. Turns out to be both. It's a small way station, just a shack, a split log fence, and a corral with a single horse chewing what might once have been hay. A man sits on the porch, whittling something that vaguely resembles a squirrel. His boots are off, and one toe wiggles like it's signaling for help. He sees you and waves you in. You the northbound runner, he calls. Close enough, you reply, unsaddling Maggie and tying her to the rail. He introduces himself as Benny Pike. He smells like pine tar and chewing tobacco. Says he's the station's keeper for this month, swapping in from a nearby claim. You hand him a small package marked replacement parts, clockwork, and a folded letter from someone named Josie. He grins, tucks both into a tin box, and offers you something he calls prairie stew. It tastes suspiciously like squirrel. As you eat, Benny tells stories. That's the thing about these station tenders, they collect gossip like burrs. He leans close and says, heard a tale last week. Stranger was riding under the name Elias Crow. Folks say he's carrying something that ain't supposed to exist. Like a map. Or a key. Or maybe just a very persuasive lie. You don't react. Just sip stew. Benny grins. If I were you, I'd steer clear of anyone asking too many questions. Word is, Pinkertons are sniffing out here, and they don't fetch unless someone's paying good. You ask casually, they ever come through here? Once. Two fellas. Wore black dusters, smiled like wolves. One had a gold tooth that caught firelight like a lantern. Didn't say much. Asked about riders. Left me this. He pulls a coin from his pocket. Not currency, something else. Etched with an owl and a tiny gear. Strange. You hand it back without comment. Historians still argue whether the Pinkerton Detective Agency ever had secret subdivisions dedicated to information disruption, missions that weren't about capturing crooks, but about managing narratives. Seems far-fetched, until you hear about guys like Elias Crow. You bunk in Benny's loft that night. It's dry, but smells like old cheese and damp wool. You dream of a door with no handle, a woman crying behind it, and a man with your face, but not your eyes. You wake at dawn. No more singing. No more squirrel stew. You've got a delivery to make in a ghost town. That's not slang. It's literally called Brim Hollow. Once a mining camp, now a cluster of collapsed cabins and rumor. Supposedly 2 families still live there, though no one's sure why. Or how. The trail narrows through a pass called Dead Tooth Gap. You wish people would pick cheerier names. You find the hollow around noon. The place hums with quiet, like it's waiting for something. Broken fences. Dusty windows. One building's front door creaks open as if to say, "Don't bother knocking." You dismount, stretch your sore knees, and head toward the chapel. It's the only structure still standing tall, white paint peeling like sunburned skin. A bell rings inside. You stop cold. Someone's in there. You push open the chapel door. Inside, pews stand at odd angles. Dust motes swirl like lazy ghosts. And behind the altar stands a woman in gray, holding a lantern. "You're late," she says. You blink. "You expected me?" She nods. "Or someone wearing your face?" You swallow. "I've got a letter," you offer, voice low. She doesn't take it. "Does it have blood on it?" You check. "No?" "Then it's the wrong one." She turns and vanishes through a side door, the lantern trailing gold behind her like a comet. You stand there, frozen, letter still in hand. Eventually, you leave it on the altar. As you turn to go, you hear something under your boot. Paper. Crumpled. You pick it up. It's another letter. Half-burned. Addressed to E. Crow. The handwriting matches the one to Adelaide. You tuck it into your coat beside the first. You ride out of Brim Hollow before the sun slips too low. The chapel bell rings once behind you. No wind. Just the sound of hooves and something new in your chest, a sense that this ride's more than a mail run now. You're carrying ghosts. Secrets. And something that may not belong to you. but the mail moves. Because it must. Even when the letters whisper lies. Even when your name isn't your own. The next stretch of trail feels heavier, like you're riding through syrup instead of air. Maggie picks up on it too, ears pinned back, every step deliberate. Maybe it's the burned letter. Maybe it's the way that woman said someone wearing your face. Or maybe it's the gnawing thought that you've somehow stepped into a role meant for someone else, someone dangerous. Whatever it is, you don't whistle, you don't hum. You just ride. You're headed towards Split Rock Station, your official drop point for this leg of the route. It's supposed to be a straightforward stop. A rest. A warm meal and a dry bunk. But let's be real, nothing's straightforward when there's a bounty poster with your face on it and letters whispering your ghost name. By noon, the sun's high enough to bake the trail into a cracked mosaic. The prairie around you buzzes with heat, cicadas sawing away like they're paid by the decibel. In the distance, Split Rock rises like a broken tooth, one jagged boulder leaning away from another, with a narrow gap between them that the station's nestled inside. As you approach, you hear laughter. Not joyful laughter, drunken laughter. That kind that's always 2 sips away from turning mean. You slow Maggie. The mailbag's secured. Your coat is buttoned. You reach for the flask in your saddlebag, not for a drink, but for the mirror you keep tucked inside the lining. You use the reflection to scout the yard without showing your face. 3 men. All dusters. One wears a bowler hat, tilted back like it's too lazy to sit straight. One's got a rifle slung across his chest and is using it to scratch his back. The third is leaning against the doorframe of the station, chewing something and spitting with sniper accuracy at a tin cup on the ground. They don't look like ranchers. You ride in slow. Bowler hat steps forward, squinting. Mail run? Yup, you say. You late. Trail soft, you lie. Rain and dry tooth. He nods but doesn't move. You got identification? You reach inside your coat slowly, like a man trying very hard not to be shot by a nervous raccoon. You pull the badge, weather-worn, the official seal half-faded. Rifle scratch gives a low whistle. That's real. Or a mighty fine fake. The one at the doorway finally speaks. His voice is silk over rust. Let him in. If he's a faker, he's the bravest one I've seen this week. You dismount. Maggie gives you a look that says, "Why are we always walking into trouble?" Exactly. Inside the station, it's cool and smells like bacon, sawdust, and tension. A man sits behind the desk, a relay officer named Grigsby. He's older, with wild white eyebrows and a face that's seen at least 3 wars and 1 bad divorce. He looks up, sees you, and visibly relaxes. Finally, he says, "I was beginning to think the trail swallowed you." You hand him the stack of letters marked for Split Rock. He takes them with shaking hands. Not nervous from age, nervous from company. "You been alone long?" you murmur. He doesn't look up. "They showed 2 days ago. Been asking after riders." You nod once. Then Rifle Scratch calls in, "You boys seen a man goes by Elias Crow? 'Bout your height, lean face, maybe rides a dun mare? They haven't seen you in the back room yet. Grigsby doesn't answer. Just taps a letter on the desk. You glance down. It's addressed to Postmaster W. Grigsby, Split Rock Station. In the corner, urgent. Eyes only. He hands it to you. Might want to take that one with you. You palm the envelope, then slip it inside your vest. Then you hear it. A cough. From the hallway outside. Someone else is here. You freeze. Your back presses against the desk. Grigsby says nothing, just gives the tiniest shake of his head. Don't draw. Then Bowler Hat's voice again. Hey, old-timer. You sure nobody's come through here recently? We got it on good word that Elias was last seen riding this trail. Grigsby stands slowly, hands raised like he's stretching. Only rider I seen was the last northbound run, he says. Name of Shepherd. Ugly as a boot. You want to arrest someone, go find him. They laugh. You hear boots scraping outside, moving away. Then the door shuts with a lazy click. You exhale for the first time in a minute. Grigsby walks you out the back, toward the stable. They'll clear out tonight. Headed toward Brim Hollow. Poor devils. Place lead 'em. You saddle up. Before you ride, he says, be careful, kid. This trail's not just dust and mail anymore. It's something else now. Something real old and real clever. You nod. You ride out toward Ghost Hill Pass. The wind is warm now, like it's trying to whisper secrets in your ear. You don't want them. But they come anyway. You stop at a stream to water Maggie. As she drinks, you pull out the letter Grigsby gave you. You open it. Inside is a single sentence. If you're not Elias, stop carrying his mail. Below it, a sketch. A map. One you've seen before, etched faintly in the corner of the burned letter from the chapel. It leads to a place marked only, the furnace. You fold it up and sit back against a tree. Historians still argue whether the furnace was real or just a metaphor used in coded letters during the war. Some said it was a hidden cache of Confederate gold. Others whispered it was worse, a place where men went to disappear, taking secrets with them. You sigh, thinking how none of this was in the job description. You just wanted to deliver mail. Maybe see a sunrise. Maybe flirt with a waitress who could cook more than beans. But here you are. With a stolen name in your shadow. And a map in your coat that people are willing to kill for. The mail must move. Even if it's dragging you straight into something ancient. Even if the road ahead is lined with people looking for someone you never meant to be. You ride on. Your boots creak in the stirrups as you head deeper into the Badlands, the path to the furnace now stitched like a secret beneath your coat. Every bump of the trail is a little jab from the universe, reminding you, you weren't supposed to read that letter. You weren't supposed to become Elias Crow. But here you are. Again. The wind shifts around you like it knows something you don't, pushing dust into your teeth and doubt into your ribs. Still, you ride. Because that's what male riders do. Or at least, it's what you do. Now, the route leads you toward a range of jagged mesas and ravines so twisty you'd swear a god dropped spaghetti on a map and called it terrain. The area was once Apache land, and some of the old markers are still carved into the red stone: spirals, hands, eyes. Warnings, probably. You nod in respectful silence as you pass them. Historians still argue whether certain indigenous tribes actually created courier networks before the U.S. Postal Service ever reached west of the Mississippi. Their signals, carved into rocks and trees, may have been just as effective, and way less prone to being intercepted by Pinkertons. Your next delivery is to a mining outpost called Haver's Nook. You wouldn't know it was a town unless someone told you. It's just 3 cabins, 1 shaft, and a wooden sign so faded it reads like a question. SNK? You approach with caution. No one answers your knock at the main cabin, so you swing open the door and immediately regret it. The place is empty, but not abandoned. Half-eaten stew on the table. A poker hand in progress by the window. Clothes folded in a neat stack on a cot. You call out, "Mail run." Nothing. You check the shaft. Still nothing. No tools. No lanterns. No rope. Just the dark. Maggie paws the dirt and huffs, clearly not a fan of this ghost miner vibe. And you? You're inclined to agree. You leave the letter, addressed to L. Haver, on the table, weighed down by a tin cup. You also slip a second, unmarked envelope underneath it, one you've seen pop up 3 times now, always with the initials AK. Adelaide Crow? As you mount back up, a whistle pierces the stillness. It's distant. High-pitched. Like someone blowing across a glass bottle. Then silence. Just long enough to make you doubt it happened. Then a second whistle, closer. And a third, right behind you. You wheel around. Nothing. Except there, on the bluff above Haver's Nook, a figure, cloaked, watching. Same wide-brimmed hat. Same eerie stillness. You blink. Gone. Now, you don't spook easy, but Maggie does, and she's already dancing in place like her hooves are hot. You take the hint. You gallop until the wind bites your face and your thoughts scatter behind you like breadcrumbs for a bird that might eat secrets. When you finally slow, it's at the edge of a dry basin. The kind of place where wagon wheels go to die. You dismount, give Maggie a rest, and take a sip from your canteen that tastes like warm regret. Then you hear something strange. Clapping. One slow clap. Then another. You draw your revolver, not because it'll help, but because hands feel better when they're doing something dumb. Out steps a man in a jacket so dusty it's more dust than fabric. He smiles like a preacher at a funeral. "Well now," he says, "if it ain't Elias Crow." You don't answer. He taps his temple. "I saw you in Brim Hollow. Saw you speak to the Grey Widow." You shrug. "You must have mistaken me." "Oh no," he says, grin widening. "I got a good memory for faces that cause trouble." You hold the gun steady. What do you want? He chuckles. Just a chat. 'Cause wherever you're headed, the furnace, maybe, you should know you're not the only one carrying letters that don't belong to him. He pulls out a bundle. Letters. Sealed in wax you don't recognize. One has your name. Not Elias. Your name. That's impossible. You blink again. The man's gone. Just vanished. Like a dream you forgot mid-sentence. Your revolver's still raised. You lower it, holster it, and sit. That's the second time today your brain feels like a scrambled egg with too many spices. A wind kicks up, tossing dry leaves into the basin. One sticks to your boot. It's not a leaf. It's a page. Handwritten. You peel it off, smooth it on your thigh. It says, "He rides like a ghost, but he ain't one. Not yet. But soon." You read it 3 times, then burn it with a match. It curls like a spider and disappears. Later that night, you set camp under a rock outcropping shaped like a crooked finger. The stars above are sharp and bright, scattered across the velvet sky like spilled sugar. You cook beans, again, and sleep with your saddle as a pillow. In the darkness, Maggie snorts once. You sit up fast. A scraping sound. Soft. Metal on rock. You reach for your revolver, eyes scanning the ridge. Nothing. Then a voice, whispered from behind a boulder. Don't trust the station keeper at Red Vale. You spin, gun raised. Nothing. Just the night. The fire. The hum of the desert. The whisper lingers, though. Like dust in your ears. You lie awake the rest of the night, revolver across your chest, coat zipped tight around the letters. You're no longer just a courier. You're a key. A witness. Maybe even a decoy. And whoever started this game, they're still watching. Waiting for the moment you finally open the right letter, and everything burns. The morning drips in slow, like syrup down a cold plate. The sunrise crawls over the desert rim, painting the basin gold, then blood orange. You wake with that whisper still clinging to the inside of your skull. Don't trust the station keeper at Red Vale. It loops while you pack your gear. Maggie's already up, stomping at gnats and eyeing the horizon like she knows today's trail is different. Red Vale is next. It's not far, just a half-day's ride if the weather holds and your luck doesn't twist. But with the way things have gone, you're expecting both to fail in creative fashion. You ride with a belly full of beans and dread. Every bush looks like it might move. Every rock could be a man with a rifle. And every shadow might be him, the cloaked figure who keeps popping up like a bad verse in a campfire song. Red Vale sits in a shallow canyon carved by flash floods and too many stories. As you descend, the scent changes, pine smoke, boiled oats, a faint bite of kerosene. The station is bigger than most. 2 full cabins, a corral, even a windmill creaking like an old man stretching after a nap. Fancy stuff for a mail relay. You approach slowly, scanning the place. On the porch, a woman, mid-30s, hair tied back, rifle across her lap like it was born there. She squints at you with that look women get when they've seen more lies than faces. "You the male?" she calls. "Sure am," you answer. "Running southbound, came from Split Rock." She nods. "You're late. You're armed." She smirks at that and waves you forward. "Fair." As you dismount, the windmill lets out a low groan. You pet Maggie, who immediately starts sniffing the trough with suspicion. "Smart girl." The woman stands, rests the rifle against the railing. "I'm Tilda. Keep her here." Your brain flickers back to the whisper. "Don't trust the station keeper." You nod but don't shake her hand. Just sling the mail pouch onto the table beside the door. "Any outgoing?" you ask, trying to keep things businesslike. "Just one." She turns and fetches a thick envelope from a saddlebag inside. As she hands it to you, you notice her hand shakes. Not from age. From something deeper. Something hiding behind the calm. You slip the letter into your coat. "Thanks." Tilda hesitates. You seen anyone strange on the trail?" You blink. Define strange." She chuckles, but it's brittle. "Riders that don't talk. Ones that wear their hats low enough you can't see the whites of their eyes." You swallow hard. "Might have seen someone. Twice." "Same one?" "Maybe." She nods, then lowers her voice. "I've had 4 riders come through in the past week. Only 2 made it to the next station. What happened to the others?" She looks up, and for a second, you swear her eyes beg you to believe her. "They turned around. Said the trail ahead was wrong. Not broken, wrong. One man screamed for half an hour before riding straight into the ravine. Said he saw a girl made of ash waving at him." You shift your weight. You tell the home office. They don't answer. I've sent 5 dispatches. Nothing comes back. Now you're really listening. Mail not making it through? That's more than just bad logistics. That's interruption. And that doesn't happen out here unless someone wants it to. Tilda leans close. There's something under this canyon. Something buried deep and mad. The locals called it the scar that never heals. She jerks her thumb toward the hills. It's somewhere past the blood posts. The what? She gestures toward the trailhead. Sure enough, there, on either side of the path, stand 2 rotted fence poles. Each wrapped in red cloth. Faded, fluttering, soaked in wind and silence. You remember the map from the burned letter. The trail led past the blood posts, straight into the jagged ridges behind them. To the furnace. People still live past there, you ask. She shrugs. If they do, they don't send letters. That's fair. You rest for an hour. Maggie gets oats and a rub-down. You patch your boot with a scrap of leather and a nail from Tilda's barn. The whole time, the station keeper keeps watching the hills. Like something's due to arrive. And late. You leave before dusk. Tilda walks you out and says only one thing: if you see the man with no hands, Don't talk to him. Just ride. You nod and tip your hat. As you pass the blood posts, the air grows thick. Not with dust or heat, but with something less polite. Something you'd call watching, if that made any sense. You press forward. The sun dips. The shadows lengthen. And you see it. A wagon. Half buried in the sand, axle snapped, wheel missing. Around it, bones. Not human. Horse, probably. But bleached white and cracked like sugar candy. You dismount, approach slow. The wagon bears the insignia of the old Confederate Telegraph Company, a logo long since defunct. Inside the wagon, under a tarp, lies a bundle of mail sacks. Half-rotted. You pry one open. Inside, letters. Dozens. All unopened. Some stamped 3 years ago. All addressed to people in Red Vale, Brim Hollow, and a place you've never heard of, Mirth's Hollow. Then you hear it. Steps. Soft. Shuffling. From behind the wagon. You whirl around. There, standing perfectly still, is a man in a dark coat. No gloves. No sleeves. No hands. Just blank wrists where something should be. They sway slightly in the breeze. You remember Tilda's warning. Don't talk to him. Just ride. But his face. It's yours. Not sort of. Not kind of. Exactly. Your jaw. Your scar. Your haunted, too tired eyes. He opens his mouth like he's about to speak. You run. You don't shout. You don't draw your gun. You don't ask questions. You leap onto Maggie's back and ride. The trail snaps past you like ribbon in a storm. Behind you, no footsteps. But in the wind, something faint, almost laughter. Maybe next time, you won't be so lucky. You don't stop riding until your legs are numb and Maggie's foam-lathered sides glisten like moonlight off river stone. She doesn't complain, not once, because she felt it too. That figure back there? That thing? It wasn't just wearing your face. It knew it. And maybe worse, it liked wearing it. You don't tell yourself that out loud. But you think it, over and over, as the trail twists you into country so quiet, even the crickets seem to be holding their breath. Eventually, you reach a ridge that overlooks a dry wash, and beyond that, your next stop. Or what's left of it. Mirth's Hollow. Or what the sign used to say before it was shot full of holes and bleached by time. The town's mostly gone, burned out shells of what were probably once a general store, a saloon, and a chapel. 2 buildings still stand enough to lean against, a crooked post office barely bigger than an outhouse, and a barn that looks like it lost a fist fight with gravity. But you're expected here. One of the letters in your pouch has Mirth's Hollow etched on it in delicate, looping script. No name. Just the town. So you go in. The dust greets you first, swirling around your ankles like a bored cat. The wind carries the smell of scorched pine and something sweeter underneath. Like rotten apples. like the breath of a cellar that hasn't been opened in years. You knock on the post office door. Nothing. You push it open. Inside, there's a single desk. A ledger. And on the wall, a mail cubby built with the care of someone who once believed in things working properly. One slot, center cubby, is marked Elias Crow. You pause. You haven't told a single soul your alias. You reach for it. Inside, one letter. Black wax. No stamp. You crack the seal. Inside is a single sentence, handwritten in a careful, slanted script. We know what you're carrying. And what it's costing you. That's it. No name. No threat. No demand. Just knowledge. And that's worse than a threat, somehow. You step back outside. Maggie's waiting. She snorts at the dirt like even she thinks this place smells cursed. Then, from the barn, a noise. Faint. Rhythmic. Like a lullaby tapped out on wood. You draw your revolver, take one careful step at a time toward the barn door. You know it's stupid. You know what should happen in a horror story next. But you go anyway, because maybe you're the kind of fool who has to know. Inside, the light filters through a half-burnt wall. There's hay, old tools, and a phonograph. Cranked up and turning slowly. Playing nothing but static. You approach it, boot steps crunching on dirt and bone-dry straw. Taped to the horn is another note. Short. Rushed handwriting. Red Veil lied. Don't trust the map. The furnace is not a place. You blink. You'd just gotten used to thinking it was. Something buried in the desert. A ruin, maybe. An outlaw town. A hideout of secrets. But if it's not a place, then what is it? Behind you, the phonograph slows. Then stops. And someone claps. Slow. Deliberate. You spin, gun up. There's a boy, about 10 years old, sitting on the rafters. No, perched, like a bird. His legs dangle, but his eyes are cold, far too old. And they don't blink. Wrong road, he says, voice flat as stone. Wrong name. You swallow. What are you? He grins. Better question. What are you? Before you can answer, he drops. Hits the ground without a sound. Gone. Not behind the hay, not ducked under a board, just gone. You leave the barn without checking your back, and that's a rare thing for you. The saddle's cool when you return to Maggie, but your back is hot with sweat. You ride out with your shadow long behind you and the dead town shrinking in your wake. But the words follow you. The furnace is not a place. So you look again at the burned map you stole back in Brim Hollow. You take it out at a campfire 3 hours later, once the sky's gone violet and the coyotes start their nightly debates. You hold it to the flame, close enough to warm it, but not burn. And the ink shifts. Just a little. You blink. Rub your eyes. The paths shimmer. And one trail, a faint dotted line, becomes bolder. You trace it. It doesn't lead to a town. It loops in a spiral. A perfect, mathematical spiral, centered on a ridge near Dead Horse Canyon. And written next to it, so faint you can barely make it out, is a word you didn't see before. Not a town. Not a mine. Just you. Now things are starting to tilt. You remember something Tilda said about how the trail ahead felt wrong. Not impassable. Wrong. What if the furnace isn't some lost ruin or outlaw den? What if it's you? Or something inside you? Somehow, the mail you carry is doing more than just connecting towns. It's drawing a shape. A path. One only visible if you live it. And maybe that's the real point. Maybe whoever designed this route wasn't interested in delivery. They were interested in transformation. And you're the one being reshaped. A man made of ash. A boy in the rafters. A version of yourself with no hands and no name. You stare at the fire too long that night. Long enough for your beans to burn and your dreams to get slippery. In one of them, you open a letter addressed to your childhood self. Inside, a drawing. A spiral. And under it, in handwriting that could be yours or your mother's. You already delivered it. You just don't remember. You wake in a cold sweat. Maggie's staring at you, unblinking. And somewhere far off, beyond the ridgeline, the wind carries a sound that's half howl, half laughter. Maybe the furnace is coming to you. You leave your camp before first light, nerves frayed and stomach twisting like you swallowed a coiled snake. The letter still weighs heavy in your coat. The spiral map burns in your memory. You don't even bother with coffee. Not today. Today you ride with something behind your ribs that won't sit still. The trail curves sharply west, narrowing between steep, crumbling rock faces. This isn't a route designed for wagons or traffic. It's barely a trail at all, just a suggestion etched into dirt. You pass no guideposts. No hoof prints. Nothing but scattered bones bleached into anonymity. It feels like riding into the lungs of something massive and ancient. And when you cross the ridge that marks the outer edge of Dead Horse Canyon, you finally see it. A spiral burned into the earth. Massive. Nearly 50 feet wide. Twisting black scars where the scrub has been seared away, forming an exact replica of the spiral you saw on the map. The soil looks melted. Charred. Dead. Even the flies won't touch it. You stare at it from your saddle for a long time. Maggie refuses to take even one step closer. Smart horse. You dismount and step forward alone. The closer you get, the more it warps your senses. Your boots feel heavier. The air smells like hot iron and blood pennies. Time itself slows, like honey thickening in a jar. You're breathing, but you're not sure the air's helping anymore. Then you hear it. A low hum. Deep and throaty, like an organ playing from underground. You take another step. And you feel pulled. Not like gravity, like memory. Like something in you has already been here. You drop to one knee and brush your hand over the ash. The spiral's center pulses faintly. Not visibly, but deep in your chest, like a second heartbeat. You pull up the letter from Mirth's Hollow again. Just one line. We know what you're carrying. And what it's costing you. So you ask yourself the question that's been chasing you for days now. What are you carrying? Yes, there's mail. But it's more than that. There's something writing inside you. In the cracks between thoughts. You feel it twitch when you sleep. You hear it whisper in your own voice when you dream. You've become a vessel. And the letters? They're not just messages. They're anchors. You pull another one out. This one's addressed to the old black church, Brim Hollow. But Brim Hollow doesn't have a black church. It never did. That's a historical fact. Actually, according to early settler accounts, the town's single chapel burned before it was finished. And yet here's the letter, dated this year, sealed like any other. You blink. Maybe the map didn't lie. Maybe you did. And maybe, just maybe, the spiral isn't a place you've come to. It's a map of where you've been. A map of who you are. A shape traced by trauma, regret, and every unsent word that's ever festered in the dark. Some historians argue that certain native tribes of the Southwest believe spirals to represent not just travel through land, but through self. Layers of being. Memory. Spirit. And some fringe scholars, yes, the ones who smell like mushrooms and quote old books that were never published, believe the Pony Express wasn't just a logistical miracle. They claim the original network was designed to form a massive sigil across the frontier. A spell, using movement as ink. A circuit. A summoning. You chuckle. It's a weird thought. But not weirder than the boy on the rafter. Or the handless version of yourself. Not weirder than the spiral that's currently singing in your chest. You circle the outer edge, careful not to step inside the burn. Your instincts scream no, and you listen. But as you walk the perimeter, something catches your eye. A mailbox. Just a simple rusted tin box nailed to a dead post, sitting alone on the far side of the spiral. No flag. No name. You walk to it slowly, like it might bite. Inside, one envelope. No stamp. No seal. Just your name, scrawled in ink that smells like salt and pine sap. You open it. There's no letter inside. Just a mirror shard. You stare into it. And for one instant, just one, your reflection blinks independently of you. You drop it like it's hot iron, stumble back. And you swear, from deep in the spiral, something laughs. Not loud. Not cruel. Just amused. Maggie whinnies from behind you. She's had enough. So have you. You mount fast and ride harder. And as you leave the canyon, you swear the spiral grows smaller. Not because you're riding away, but because it's folding up, closing in on itself like a flower at dusk. Like it never wanted to be seen in the first place. You ride past dusk, past tired, and into night. You don't camp. You don't eat. You just go. And finally, as stars crowd the sky and the moon peeks over your shoulder, you reach something new. A tiny outpost. A real one. With a lantern on a hook and a postmaster in his rocking chair. He sees you. Nods once. Then, as you dismount, he squints. "Elias Crow?" he asks. You freeze. "Yeah." He raises a brow. "You're late." "How late?" He checks his pocket watch. 2 years. You don't answer. Because you can't. And because, somehow, it makes too much sense. The postmaster doesn't ask where you've been. He just shuffles into his shack, the screen door slamming behind him with a sound that feels louder than it ought to in the middle of nowhere. The outpost is little more than a lean-to stitched onto a root cellar, but it has a lantern, a chair, and something you haven't seen in days: normalcy. You tie Maggie to the post and feel your legs shake as you walk. The adrenaline's wearing off, and your body's reminding you that you haven't eaten since, when? Brim Hollow? Mirth's Hollow? You're not even sure anymore. The shack smells like old tobacco, paper, and something sharp underneath. Not quite vinegar. Not quite copper. The postmaster gestures to a crate. Put the mail there. You do. He doesn't rifle through it, just gives a slow nod. Then he pulls a slip of paper from his coat pocket and hands it to you. One name. One destination. Deliver to Annie Crow. Red Vale. Your stomach sinks. You've been to Red Vale. Weeks ago. More than once, if you count all the strange loops and glitches in your route. And you've never met anyone named Annie. You look up. Who gave you this? He smiles. Same one who hired you, I suppose. You pause. I wasn't hired. He holds up a hand. You were. You just forgot. You stare at the slip again. The handwriting is yours. Definitely yours. You leave without saying goodbye. It's not that you're being rude, it's just that you're suddenly not sure that man is real. The outpost itself is already starting to fade into the shadows behind you as Maggie clops onward. You don't look back. You point her northeast. Toward Red Vale. But you don't ride straight there. You ride crooked, following instinct, wind patterns, and something older than maps. The landscape changes. Again. Cactus gives way to sagebrush. Then to charred forest. Then to bones of towns that never made it past their first dry season. Ghosts drift in and out of corners, some just memories, others, more active. You pass a farmhouse with no doors and every window open. The chimney smokes, but no one's home. You pass a child on a swing, face turned away. It creaks even when the wind dies. You pass a graveyard where the headstones are all blank. And the closer you get to Red Vale, the more the world feels built, like a set constructed around you, a theater of dirt and dust. You finally arrive late the next evening. Only this time, it's not the Red Vale you remember. The saloon's been repainted. The train station, burned down last time, is standing tall again. And the sheriff? She's alive. You stare at her from your saddle, slack-jawed. Ma'am? She glances at you. Evening, stranger. You slide down from Maggie, heart thumping like thunder. You don't remember me? She cocks her head. Should I? You open your mouth to say something, anything, but a clock tower you swear wasn't there yesterday starts to chime. Long, slow tones that vibrate your teeth. You walk the main road in a daze. Every shopkeeper smiles. Nods. Says evening, Mr. Crow, like you're a regular. And at the end of the street is a house. 2 stories. White trim. A garden out front. And on the gate, Crow. Your legs move before your brain catches up. You knock. The door opens. A woman answers. Her face hits you like a freight wagon. She's familiar. Not just familiar, yours. Hair like yours, eyes like a softer version of your own. She's not young. Not old. Just outside time. She says, you made it. And you collapse. She catches you like she's done it before. When you come to, you're in a rocking chair. Blanket over your legs. Tea steaming on a table beside you. The woman, Annie, is sewing something. A quilt. Patterned with spirals. You were never late, she says. I don't understand. She smiles. No one does. That's why it works. You sip the tea. It's warm. Strong. Tastes like clove and memory. Am I dead, you ask? She laughs softly. Not yet. Then what is this place? What is Red Veil? She doesn't answer. Instead, she lifts a letter. One from your own bag. She unfolds it. Reads aloud. To the one who forgets. We made you a road out of time. You carry pieces of others, and in doing so, you stitch back the shape you left behind. There is no furnace. There is only what you burned to get here. You are the post. You are the road. You are the message. Your head swims. You've been delivering messages for weeks. Maybe months. And all the while, the spiral wasn't leading you to others. It was bringing you back to yourself. You finally ask, who are you? She looks at you, kind and steady. I'm the part you lost. The part you gave up when you agreed to carry everything for everyone else. Am I supposed to stay here now? Only if you want to. And you think about it. Think about all the danger. The mystery. The shapeshifters and spirals and burning trails. But you also think about the weight. And how it feels lighter now. Then, outside the window, a bell chimes. A horse whinnies. And a fresh satchel of letters appears on the porch. You both look at it. Annie raises her eyebrows. You don't have to pick it up. But you already know you will. You always do. Because there's still more to deliver. Still more pieces of yourself out there, waiting to be stitched back together. You stand. The blanket falls. Your boots creak. Maggie's waiting. You shoulder the mailbag. And this time, it's not quite so heavy. As you leave, Annie says one last thing. Don't forget your name again. You smile and say it out loud, just to feel the shape of it. Elias Crow. The name fits. And somewhere far away, maybe at the spiral center, something breathes easier. The satchel feels different this time. Not just lighter, clearer. As if every letter inside knows where it belongs, and you're just the hand to take it there. No more second guessing. No more red ink spirals or cryptic notes that bleed into your dreams. These envelopes are crisp, uncursed, almost polite. You mount Maggie without even thinking. She huffs, tail flicking like she knew you weren't staying long. Annie watches from the porch, arms crossed over the spiral quilt. She gives you a look that's equal parts pride and worry. Like a mother who's seen her child wander too far and still trusts him to find his way back. The path out of Red Vale isn't the one you rode in on. It's straighter. And it feels real. No sudden fog banks. No repeating loops or ghost towns vanishing as soon as you blink. Just hard-packed dirt, pine trees on either side, and the smell of sage and rain-soaked wood. The first letter goes to a ranch just outside a town called Flintlock. The name sounds made up, like a place in a penny novel. But it's real enough when you arrive, complete with a windmill, a barn painted half red and half forgotten, and a woman with arms strong enough to arm wrestle time itself. You hand her the letter. She reads it silently. Her eyes shine, just a little. Then she presses it to her chest. That was from my brother, she says. He died in the war. You blink. But, this letter's dated 2 days ago. She shrugs. Some mail doesn't use stamps. You ride on. Second stop, a mountain cabin, clinging to the edge of a cliff like it's afraid of falling but too stubborn to let go. An old man answers the door. Beard like twisted rope. A rifle slung casually over his shoulder. You hand him the letter. He looks at the handwriting. Freezes. Didn't think I'd ever see this, he whispers. You nod like you understand. You don't. But maybe that's okay. He reaches into his coat and hands you a tin box. For the road. Inside, jerky, dried cherries, and a folded note. It reads, "Keep going, Elias. The road's almost done." By the fourth delivery, you start to notice something strange. The landscape is looping, but not in the creepy, time-fogged way you remember. It's intentional. Each town echoes the one before, like refrains in a song. Each person you meet says something you almost recognize. And then, in the sixth town, someone calls you by your old nickname, Crowboy. You haven't heard that since the academy. Back when you were training, running routes across practice trails in the Nevada flats, eating nothing but beans and dust and ambition. You wheel your horse around. Who told you that name? The man blinks. Didn't. Just remembered it all of a sudden. Historians still argue whether memory is truly stored in the brain or if it clings to places, etched into air, soil, and timber. Places like this. Places you revisit without realizing, where echoes of who you were whisper through time's folds. You make it to the 7th delivery by twilight. The air smells like wood smoke and wild mint. The house is empty, but the front door swings open at your knock. A fire crackles inside. A table's set for 2. There's a letter addressed to you, sitting at your seat. You sit down. Read it. Asterisk Elias. This is your echo. One of many. You've walked this road before, and you'll walk it again. But this time, something is different. You've started to remember the right things. So here's the truth. There was no assignment. No central office. You took up the mailbag on your own, hoping it would bring you back. You built this loop to heal yourself. Now you're almost done. But you still have to choose. Deliver the final letter. Open it instead, asterisk. You set it down. Stare at it. The final letter. It's already in your hand. Thicker than the others. Heavier. With your name on it, but written in a sharp, angular script you don't recognize. The wax seal isn't red or black or blue. It's silver. You place it on the table. Turn it slowly. Feel it pulse with something, not danger, not warmth. Just gravity. The air gets thinner around you. Like the world's holding its breath. You think about everything you've been through. The spiral. The burned church. The mirror shard. The man with your eyes and no hands. You think about Annie. About who you used to be. You lift the letter. Tear the seal. Inside, there's no paper. Just a key. And a single line etched into the envelope itself. You already locked it away. Now it's time to unlock it. You blink, and when you look up, you're no longer in the cabin. You're in a field. Golden grass all around. A tree in the distance. And at its base, a door. Not a cabin door. Not a front door. Just a door. Standing upright. No walls. No hinges. Just wood and void. The key in your hand vibrates. You walk toward it. Maggie trots behind, silent as a whisper. As you reach the door, you feel it again, that low hum from the spiral canyon. A voice in your bones. A sensation behind your eyes. You slide the key into the lock. Turn it. The door opens. And behind it is not what you expected. There's no brilliant light, no grand revelation, no swirling vortex of memory and truth. Behind the door is a room. Simple. Wooden. Familiar. You've seen it before, slept in it, maybe. The bed is neatly made, the nightstand has a worn copy of the Prairie Courier, and the smell, sweet pipe tobacco and something citrusy, hits you like a childhood memory just out of reach. The walls are covered in pinned letters. Hundreds of them. Some yellowed with age, others freshly inked. All written in your handwriting. But you didn't write them. Or maybe you did, in another loop, another life. You step inside. The door closes softly behind you. No slam. No wind. Just a click, like a heartbeat being counted. You wander the room, eyes scanning letter after letter. Snippets jump out. I'm sorry I never came back. It wasn't your fault. You did what you had to. You mattered. Even when no one said it. Forgive me. Remember me. Let me go. Some letters are addressed to your mother. Others to the boy you left behind in New Orleans. One is addressed to the girl with the spiral eyes. You vaguely recall her sharp voice, missing tooth, a hat made of bird bones. You think she might have saved your life once. Or ended it, depending on the timeline. The largest letter is pinned dead center on the wall. It's sealed in wax that looks like dried blood. Above it, a small wooden plaque, carved with care. To the part of you that broke. You reach up. Pull it down. It's heavy in your hands. As you break the seal, the room tilts slightly, like the world itself is nervous about what's inside. The paper unfolds. And for once, there are no riddles. No codes. Just a simple confession, in your own voice. I couldn't save her. The words pull something loose inside you. You sit on the bed. Not because you're tired, because your knees have gone soft. The room breathes around you. And finally, the memory comes. Clear. You remember the night it happened. The message that came too late. The bridge washed out in the rain. The delay. How you rode double speed, ignoring every sign, whipping your horse like it was a race against death, and still, you arrived too late. The fire had already burned through the walls. Annie was gone. The original Annie. Not the one in Red Veil. Not the echo you met with the spiral quilt. That was just your mind trying to give you what you'd lost. A patch. A kindness. But the truth? You failed her. In all these years, all this writing, all this mail, it's just been penance. An endless route across time and pain and memory. You thought if you kept delivering enough letters, if you helped enough people find closure, you might somehow find your own. You fold the confession back up. Set it gently on the bed. Then look around the room again. The letters on the wall aren't glowing or dissolving or ascending to some holy plane. They're just still. Quiet. Present. Like witnesses who no longer need to testify. You stand. And this time, your knees hold steady. As you reach for the doorknob, you hear hoofbeats. Maggie's waiting. Of course she is. You step out into the grass again, and now the world feels settled. Like the storm is over. Like the road knows where it's leading. No more loops. No more echo towns. Just sky and space and the last stretch. You mount up. The satchel on your back is empty. Completely, utterly empty. And for the first time, it feels good. You ride east. Not because someone told you to. Not because a name was scribbled on a haunted page. But because that's the direction the sun is coming from. And you haven't watched a sunrise in years. The prairie opens around you. The wind picks up. Grass bends in lazy waves. You start to hum a tune you don't quite remember, and Maggie snorts like she's heard it before. And then, far off in the distance, a shape begins to form on the horizon. Not a town. Not a canyon. Just a figure. Someone walking. Barefoot. With a bag slung over one shoulder. You narrow your eyes. And for the briefest moment, you swear. It's you. Or the version of you who started all this. No hat. No scars. Just a boy with too much heart and not enough time. He raises a hand in a lazy wave. You wave back. Then keep writing. Because there's only one more thing to do now. Deliver yourself to peace. The road begins to narrow. Not physically, there's still space to ride, but in the way the world feels. Tighter. More focused. Like a camera lens clicking into clarity. The breeze is warmer now, gentler, full of dry wheat and honey. A bird circles overhead, the same one that trailed you out of Red Vale, maybe. Or another echo, just checking in. You pass an old mile marker half buried in the grass. No numbers. Just a carved shape, a spiral. It doesn't scare you anymore. It just means you're still on the path. Up ahead, the land opens into a kind of basin. Wide and low, ringed by dusty hills. In the center, one last town. If you could even call it that. A saloon, a chapel, a one-room schoolhouse, and a single crooked signpost with no names on it. Every building looks like it was built yesterday and abandoned the same day. Everything's intact, but nothing's alive. You dismount. Walk Maggie to the schoolhouse. Tie her up loosely. She'll wait. Inside, the desks are all empty except one. A single child's chair sits near the front, facing the blackboard. On it, one final envelope. This one's addressed simply. To whom you might still become. You don't open it yet. Instead, you sit in the chair. Let your fingers trace the grooves carved into the wood, initials, crude drawings, a tic-tac-toe game where neither side won. Then you flip the letter open. There's no paper inside. Just a photograph. You blink. It's you. Standing next to Annie. Not in Red Vale, not in front of a cabin or town or post office, but in a city. A modern one. There are street lamps, cars in the background, even a billboard half cropped out of frame. You're older. A little gray at the temples. Annie's got a streak of white in her braid and a tattoo on her wrist. And you're both smiling. Laughing. She's holding a camera. You've got your hand in her back pocket. It looks like someone caught you mid-joke. Your breath catches. Because you've never lived this. Not yet. This isn't memory, it's possibility. Historians still argue whether time is a loop, a line, or a tangled mess of yarn in a cat's paws. But they agree on one thing: we can change direction. Even at the very end. You tuck the photo into your shirt pocket. Step back outside. Maggie's already watching you, eyes soft, ears twitching. You untie her. Mount up. This time, when you ride, the world shifts forward. You feel it. No more backtracking. No more puzzles. Just the next chapter. The hills roll past in golds and reds. Then the sun dips low. You feel her warmth on your back. And as the final stretch unfolds ahead, a road you don't recognize, through a landscape you've never crossed, one thing becomes clear. You don't have to carry letters anymore. You don't have to carry anything. You just have to ride. And maybe, just maybe, live. The prairie fades behind you, the hills falling away like waves retreating from a gentle shore. The air is softer now, and the twilight carries a hush that settles into your shoulders. You ease your grip on the reins, letting the rhythm of your horse's steps guide your breath, slow and steady, like a lullaby you forgot you knew. The road is quiet. No howling wind, no phantom echoes. Just the sound of hooves on packed earth and the occasional chirp of something small and unbothered. The sky above fades into deeper blues, stars blinking into place like the final notes of a song. You ride slower now, not because you have to, but because there's no rush. There's nowhere you have to be. You pass a grove of cottonwoods, their leaves whispering secrets to the dusk. A breeze rolls across the open field, warm and dry, and carries with it the smell of campfire smoke and sweet grass. It wraps around you like a blanket. You lean into the saddle. The weight that once clung to your chest is gone. You've delivered everything that needed delivering. And what remains, whatever's next, is yours to choose. So close your eyes. Feel the road slip away beneath you. Let the silence hum. And if you dream tonight, may it be of open plains, and kind faces, and letters that always find their way home.